Hey everybody, Jeff aka GCurse here. Welcome to the Season 1 Episode 12 review of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. This episode covers the cases that we're seeing in Unsolved Mysteries Season 1 Episode 12. In the first case, we start off with the Lost Loves case of Philip Pelletier. In case number 2, we have the missing persons case of Matthew Chase. In case number 3, we have the unexplained death of Marilu Geri. In case number 4, we book in, however you want to call it, say it. We basically have a Lost Loves case of Dolores Valadez. I'm going to go through each and every one of these cases and just give a brief rundown along with the positives and negatives that there were for each of these cases, and then at the very end of this video I'll give you my overall episode breakdown and my thoughts and everything, along with a final grade basically. So let's get on with the review, shall we? So we're going to start with case number 1, Phil Pelletier. Okay, so for Philip Pelletier, basically a brief overview was that Philip Pelletier was a soldier who was operating during, or who was in service during World War II. He came across a family who was fleeing the Nazis during that time of the war, and he actually, he helped this family when they needed the help the most, and they wanted to basically say thank you to Philip for basically being there to help him. They helped their daughter, and because of that, due to the kindness that he showed them, basically they wanted to locate him in America after they moved to the United States, and basically say thank you. I am glad to say that this case was actually solved. That this case was solved, which I like. I like it when a case gets solved. We're gonna now. Here are the pros and cons, as you can see here on the screen. Pros is that they actually had a heartfelt ending. It was a really good way to start off this episode. Normally, sometimes you get cases that are like murder cases per se, and literally it has no conclusion, and sometimes that's the way an episode starts. I'm glad to say that this is one of the episodes that starts off, with with a feel good story. So I always kind of like that. And then the case was solved, which I like. I like it when a case is solved. That means that people get their answers. Cons, there was no real cons. Nothing really wrong with this episode or this case at all. The case itself felt pretty sound. They dedicated, I felt enough time for this type of case. Yeah, so there was that. Up next, we have the case of Matthew Chase. Up next, we have the missing persons case of Matthew Chase. This was actually quite a sad case, sad story, to be honest. You have Matthew Chase, who lived in, I think it was San Francisco or Los Angeles, with his friend. They got home one night, and he forgot he had to cash his check, so he basically borrowed her vehicle to make a quick run to the bank to deposit his check at the overnight ATM. And sadly, Matthew Chase never made it home. He never made it home. The friends decided to try and investigate what happened to their friend, because this was not common for Matthew Chase. They were able to locate his bank card, and they went through all that. They contacted the police, and upon investigating the surveillance video of the ATM, they actually found somebody standing right next to Matthew Chase that you can see right here in the photo. After that, the trail went cold. They do not know what happened to Matthew Chase. It was a few days later. I'm not sure exactly. I can't recall exactly how long, but the vehicle that he borrowed from his friend was ultimately located. And the story left off with that. Basically, they found a bandana with some markings on it, and they said it was not Matthew's. There was an update, and sadly, Matthew Chase was murdered by a gang member in that area, and I'm not sure if you view, if you believe in karma or not, but the person who killed Matthew Chase ended up shortly after dying of homicidal violence himself. So I'm not sure if you would consider that karma or not. I think it's fucking justice if you ask me, but that's just me. That's just me. But anyway, so when it came to this case, the pros was ultimately the case was solved. I was honestly hoping that Matthew Chase may have been scared, like there have been cases in the past that were on Unsolved Mysteries where somebody would be scared and they kind of left their family or their friends, and they were found a while later. I was hoping that it was going to be something like that when I was younger, but that was not the case when it came to Matthew Chase. A couple examples would be that there was, I think he was like a door-to-door salesman, and he went to go like fishing or something, and his family found his car, but he was nowhere to be seen. And come to find out, I think he either robbed I think this is in Canada, but he robbed like the postal service or something, and he was afraid that he was going to be arrested or some shit like that. There was that case. And then in what I consider to be a fraud case, or a case where the person lied, basically, there was a husband and wife who were supposed to have loved each other. The husband supposedly got amnesia when he went to go pick up some fish, and basically, I think he was scared, of a relationship, where he just didn't want the relationship. There was that type of case. I was hoping there was going to be something like that, where Matthew Chase maybe him and his roommate were, starting a relationship, and he got spooked. He got scared, and that happens to all of us. So I was actually hoping that there was going to be like a happy ending, where show that Matthew Chase was alive, and possibly that him and his roommate slash girlfriend possibly were going to live happily ever after, and that the person in the photo here, it was just somebody who was just too close to the guy. That's what I was hoping. But sadly, that was not the case. Matthew Chase was murdered. That was for the pros. Like I said, ultimately the case was solved. Some stuff I did not put down in this. The pros also, that the like all cases for the first, like all episodes for the first couple seasons, I'd say season 1 to 3, I think it is, it had that signature recording style from Unsolved Mysteries. It had that rough, low quality, low production value kind of quality, and that's what kind of endeared a lot of people like myself to Unsolved Mysteries when we were younger. The audio was also good. Like that kind of falls in production though. But anyway, the cons. The cons is that this case aired just before Christmas. It aired just before Christmas. Now, I understand that Matthew Chase was not found. I think it was not found until the spring of the following year. So technically the case was still missing. That's why they had a label as missing persons on the video. But still, I can't help but think that when because this aired like on December 21st, 1988, if I remember correctly. And I just cannot help but think that, really, out of everything you could show just before the holidays, there you had to showcase where a family's loved one was missing. You couldn't wait until after the holidays. Nothing says ringing in the new year. Nothing says like Merry Christmas like having to remember that a friend and loved one is missing. Oh God, I just, it just to me, it's bad timing. I think episodes that come up of Unsolved Mysteries that happen just before a holiday, I think they should be more uplifting, more positive. A lot more Philip Pelletier type cases, and less cases of with just a sad outcome. Like oh God, I just cannot. I cannot stand that. It just drives me nuts. Even to this day, as I'm recording this, it's just like bad timing, dude. Bad timing. But anyway. So that was the case of Matthew Chase. Up next, we will have case number 3, the unexplained death of Marilu Geri. What happens when there is a murder and the person sitting across from you speaks to you, and you can just tell from the way that he is talking that this person is guilty? And that is actually the case of Marilu Geri or Marilu Geri. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce her last name. I apologize for that. So I try to pronounce it Geri. But anyway, uh, I think I can't recall when the year was that this happened. Basically, Marilu and Steven were married, and they said she was an affluent. I think this was in Texas. Affluent housewife in Texas, possibly, and that she was found dead on the floor of the family home when Stephen called his mother-in-law to go and check on Marilu, because apparently Marilu and her mother had some activities that they were planning to do that day. Stephen says that he has a detailed like a timeline of alibis to show that he was not there when she was killed. And to his credit, apparently he does. However, however, just because, in my opinion, he has a timeline to support his alibi, it doesn't mean that he didn't hire people to kill her. It doesn't mean that he did not hire people to kill his wife. So I'm skeptical of. I'm not even skeptical. I'm outright saying I believe that Stephen did kill Marilu. If it wasn't by him himself, he hired people to do it, and the reason being insurance money. That's right. Marilu and Stephen, I'm guessing they owned or they worked in, but they were in the insurance industry basically. And Stephen had a life insurance policy on Marilu. Now, if you talk to the police, they will say that a lot of crimes happen due to either drugs, romance, or money. And here we have a case of money. But yeah, so Steven, he basically said, "Oh, I'm innocent. I'm innocent. Here's my detailed timeline of everything I did. I got up at this time. I went and bought me a donut or donuts. I went to have my windshield looked at or whatever." He had a timeline, of his alibis. What always stuck with me, if you've ever, I encourage you to actually watch this episode on YouTube. I'm going to post a link to all these cases in the description below. But if you listen to the way this guy talks, he sounds guilty as hell to me. He sounds guilty as hell. He sounds guilty as hell. And he just he like I said, he called his mother-in-law to have her check on Marilu. I think that was his way of trying to continue that alibi. Hey, I wasn't at home. I had to stop off at. I think said he stopped off at a business to call Marilu's mom, because this was back in the 80s. Cell phones were not that common back then. But he called Marilu's mom just to continue that alibi and get the ball rolling, basically, I guess you could say. But yeah, if you watch the case, you will see that this guy is, to me, he's scummy. He's fucking scummy. And the thing is, there are times I've watched cases on Unsolved Mysteries, and I look at people and be like, yeah, that person's guilty. That person is fucking guilty. This is one of those times. This is one of those times. But let's get on with the review, shall we, of this case. So basically, the pros were that Mary Lou's parents made a strong argument that they made me actually believe them that they are, that he is guilty on top or along with just my overall feelings of Steven. The cons is now when it comes to these pros and cons, I'm not sure if I should do a review, like review the case based on like from a technical standpoint, like how was it filmed and all of that, or should I just do a pros and cons of the case itself and not the production? Like this one where I had the pros that Mary Lou's parents made a strong argument. The cons, Stephen Schry is clearly guilty. However, he continues to skirt justice. Basically, should I do reviews? Should I do pros and cons more of a way the film the way that the case was produced, or should I just do pros and cons of the case itself? And I kind of bounce between that a little bit. I'll be honest, I kind of bounce between that because I am I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do it exactly. But yeah, so I personally think that Stephen Schry, I think he's guilty. I don't even say I think, I know the guy's guilty. It's just that he gives off that aura that he is, that he is someone that would have, you know, would have done harm to his wife. And the fact is, the way he just speaks, oh, me and Mary Lou, we were just so perfect. I can't recall exactly the words, but the way he speaks of his wife, it seems like it was rehearsed. Like he was like he spent like the whole previous week leading up to this episode of Unsolved Mysteries, the recording of this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. It sounds like he literally just spent the whole week just reading a script line for line. It does. The way he acts, he literally. It sounds like he's devoid or devoid, whatever the correct. It sounds like he is absent of actual emotions when he talks about a woman that he claims to have loved. He makes it sound more like it was just a business transaction when he speaks about her. But that is the case. Sadly, I forgot to put it down. Sadly, this case has never been solved, even though I think that we're looking at the person possibly who killed Mary Lou. You have a person who has been trying in vain to locate any sort of history for them. They do not know who they are. They do not know who their family is, and they would desperately like to know the outcome of who am I. Basically, the question of the upcoming case is, who am I? And that is the case of Dolores Valadez. Basically, ever since she was born, Dolores was told by her mother, her adopted mother, I think they said she was adopted, that it was basically her caregiver was named Maria Valadez. And Maria was not that nice to Dolores, which is kind of sad because the fact is, if you adopt somebody, you would want that child you're adopting to feel loved, but it was like the opposite way with Maria Valadez. And you know for decades, Dolores has been trying to find out who she is. Sadly, Dolores was kind of denied one avenue to get her answers when Maria Valadez died in 1960, if I remember correctly. So upon Maria's death, Dolores was she was forever blocked from getting answers, which she has a right to know. Everybody deserves to know, who am I, and like, who is my family. There are some theories that they talked about in this case that I read off to everybody. It could have been a family member. Dolores could have been the child of a family member. Dolores could have been legitimately left on the steps in a box with a black kitten. I mentioned it in the video, in my reaction, or my black site video. I think she could have been Maria could have been a victim of sexual assault, and because of this, Dolores is the product, and because of that, it could be that is why uh, Maria is so that she was, I should say, was, because she is now dead. But I think that is why. Hold on, I'm trying to fix my audio. I think that is why he was so distant to Dolores. It's because every time she looked at Dolores, she possibly could only relive the assault when it happened. Yeah, but that's just my theory. If you watch the Unsolved Mysteries episode or the Black Site file that I recorded, you will see that there are some theories. Let's see here. When it comes to this case, we had some pros and cons. Oh my God, the actress who actually played Maria Valadez, she did an awesome job. I gotta say that she was an awesome actress. It says a lot about an actor or actress when they can provide or do a part or play a role, I guess you could say, and actually gets an emotional reaction from you. I watched this video when that case when I was younger, and I did not like Maria Valadez. I did not like Maria Valadez, and that says a lot. That goes a lot towards the actress who actually played Maria Valadez. She did a good fucking job. She did a good job. She definitely earned her pay when it came to that case. Let's see here. The cons. Oh, the back to the pro. Sorry, the story was awesomely told. They really they tried to get as much information through as possible given the time constraint that they were dealing with. This was the end case of the episode. So basically, as you saw on the YouTube upload, though, I'm not sure exactly where this falls in the uh, recording of this of her case, but the way that it feels like even on the television recording of Unsolved Mysteries, that it was the end case. But anyway, the cons, no conclusion. There is no conclusion, which is kind of sad. Because this lady deserves to know who she is. Everybody, like I said, the question of who am I? That is like one of the most basic questions throughout history. Who am I? Because who am I is a form of identity. And when you don't know who you are, it kind of really makes everything, it makes everything seem a little bit off because you don't know for sure who you are, and that sense of identity has been ripped away from you. Okay, everybody. It is now time for the episode review or case review. Basically, here we have the episode review. We have a total of 4 cases. Those cases in order were the Pelletier case, the Matthew Chase case, the Marilu Geri case, and the Dolores Valadez case. Those case types were lost loves, missing person, unexplained death, and lost loves. Basically, this episode was kind of book ended by 2 lost loves case. The first lost loves case was actually solved, which is good. Sadly, the second lost loves case, the last case of this episode, currently is unsolved. We had a missing persons case which was solved, and it was later deemed to be a murder, which it's kind of sad. And then we have an unexplained death case, which should have been labeled as murder, but it's unexplained death. They did that with all murdered cases, if I remember correctly, and that case was unsolved. So basically, we have solved, solved, unsolved, unsolved, which is, I would prefer a perfect 100 rate when it comes to cases being solved. That's just me though. I'd prefer all cases be solved, but there are times we get episodes of Unsolved Mysteries where not every case is going to be solved. When it comes to the pros, the Pelletier case was solved. The Chase case was solved. I will go on and say this is my opinion. This is my opinion, but the Marilu's parents are correct that Stephen Shirai killed Marilu. The Dolores Valadez case was expertly told. I like that. I kind of mentioned it in the previous segment that basically, given the amount of time that that they had to produce this case, they got the story across as best as they could with the time constraints that they had. Let's see here. This episode continued the awesome filming style. Basically, I mentioned it before. It was that low budget, it's that low budget, kind of low quality video style that really kind of made Unsolved Mysteries stand out. And that's what people love. That's what people love when they think about Unsolved Mysteries. It was that rough filming style that really kind of launched the series in the first couple seasons. Audio was awesome, and Robert Stack, as always, Robert Stack is the man. When it comes to Unsolved Mysteries. I'm not saying anything, against the other people who have hosted this show, but Robert Stack is going to be synonymous with Unsolved Mysteries. When it comes to the cons, lack of case variety. That was like a major issue with me. To me, Unsolved Mysteries, and I understand that not everything can be ghosts and UFOs and that sort of stuff, But I like a good variety, and in this episode, we had two lost loves case. And the thing is, one of those lost loves case. Wait, no, that's missing. I'm thinking missing person. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we had two lost loves case. Yeah, we had a missing persons case and unexplained death. I still think that for it to be for it to kind of really hit it out of the ballpark, I still think that basically it should be mandatory. You have one ghost case, one UFO case, and you could probably sprinkle in missing persons or unexplained death or lost loves or psychics or miracles or whatever else. But I think honestly, it needs to have that ghost and UFOs. That's just me, though. That's just me. I think that would really just kind of make the episode a little bit better. Okay, another negative was the case lengths. I even though I didn't really have problems with any of these cases per se, I just felt like they crammed four cases into roughly a 40-minute episode of Unsolved Mysteries. It's supposed to be an hour, but you got to take away commercials. Remember, this was the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. So, like, I think, like, normally you were supposed to have, like, a 40-minute show, and then you have, like, 20 minutes of commercials or whatever it was. But I just felt that maybe if they removed one case and dedicated some of that extra time, I think these cases could have been even more awesome. But overall, it isn't anything that really hampered the episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Basically, the case lengths, now these are just estimates. Also, these are just estimates. I think I did it from the time that the case first started. So basically, when you have that little title card that basically said what the case was, all the way to the time that the case went black at the very end. So these are just estimates. So case 1, it was 10 minutes 2 seconds. Case 1 was 10 minutes 2 seconds. Case 3, it was 11 minutes 40 seconds. Case 3, it actually ranged in at 12 minutes 40 or 23 seconds. Case 4, 11 minutes 34 seconds. So, like I said, it's kind of hard. The producers always kind of walk a tightrope when it comes to figuring out, like, dedicating how much time does each case get. But I think that, at least for this episode, I think this episode would have been a little bit better if they removed one of the cases. Let's just say that they removed the Marilu Geri case and move that to after the holidays, especially because, like I said, you have a murder case and you're airing a murder case just before Christmas. It's like, oh God, really? Ugh. Nothing says ho 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 like remembering that you just recently had to put in a loved one into the ground, possibly. Nothing says like Yuletide greetings, But anyway, they could have removed that case, and that would have dedicated at least another 4 minutes to the other cases. But that's just me. Stephen Geri was clearly guilty. The guy. If I think that if he actually tried to act guilty, he would have acted more innocent than he did acting innocent and ended up looking guilty, if that makes any sense. And sadly, we had 2 cases unsolved, but ultimately, is that really a con of the show? I mean, like I kind of said before, things, just happen. You don't always get every case to be solved. Final thoughts. I give this episode a final grade of B-. The case MVP, the 2 standout cases, I'll be honest. I kind of now these are all just subjective. I'm not saying this is fact. This is just my opinion. So the 2 standout cases I was kind of torn. I could not pick just one, so I had to pick both the Matthew Chase case and the Marilu Geri case. The lackluster case. There were none, but if I literally had to pick one, it was Dolores Valadez case. Even though everything was done pretty good in that case, there was just no real answer, and it felt like pieces of the puzzle were intentionally being held out, or cut out, or whatever you want to say. It just felt like that there were times you should have been expecting to hear something, and you just didn't hear it. That's the way I felt, at least. But overall, the Dolores Valadez case was still a pretty good case. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has watched this episode of Black Site Files or Unsolved Mysteries, or the cases that make up this episode. We will be starting season 1, episode 13 next time, ladies and gentlemen. And we have 3 cases that are going to be covered. This covers season 1, episode 13 of Unsolved Mysteries. However, 2 of those cases were already covered in previous episodes or previous installments of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. So we have some of the cases that will be covered in season 1, episode 13. I think it is the fraud case. I should have put the case types in these images, but I did not. That's my fault. We have the fraud case of Arthur Frankfurt. Basically, I think they referred to him as like an elderly Don Juan. Basically, he would hook up with elderly ladies and basically kind of rob them, basically. We have the case of Lee Selwyn, which is a tragic case. This is a case that actually I always kind of look back on when I think about Unsolved Mysteries. This is a case about somebody being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Lee Selwyn, he was actually part of a group of friends who like to ride their motorcycles. One night after they left a club, they were at a red light when a vehicle came just screeching around them, running around them, you know, and then in the lane. This led to a little confrontation between Lee's friend. I think his name was Frank. I may be wrong. Frank and the driver of the vehicle. The driver spit at Lee's friend. Lee's friend broke the mirror on the vehicle. I can't recall what happened next. I think the driver spit at. No, it wasn't a spit. The driver of the vehicle looked like he was going to reach down to grab a gun. The friend punched the window out of the vehicle, of the driver's side door, and this caused just a whole cascade of a cascade failure, I guess you could say. It ended up with Lee being chased down by the driver of the vehicle. Now, keep in mind, Lee had nothing to do with that incident. He was just there. He was just there. He was, like I said, wrong place, wrong time, and this ended up with Lee being killed. We have the case of Michael Rosenblum. Basically, I cannot recall exactly that much about this case, but from what I understand, Michael Rosenblum, he ended up going missing, and that he, you know, as of recording that, he was never located. There is reports of police corruption. There are reports that police could have had something to possibly do with his death, if I remember correctly. And sadly, the case was ultimately solved, and we'll talk more about that when I cover that case. There are two cases that are going to be omitted. We have the Rogers Kane case, which I already covered back in Season 1, Episode 10 of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. You can find it on YouTube. Also, the Stephen Cox case, that was also omitted because I covered it previously in Season 1, Episode 8. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That was my review of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries, Season 1, Episode 12. It covered 4 cases, and I hope that you get a chance to see these cases. Excuse me. As always, if you like what you watch, feel free to click that subscribe button, click the like button, click the follow button if you're watching on Facebook, and that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you next time for the next episode of Unsolved Mysteries. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wishing you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody.